No glass walls or gated excess, just space shaped by rhythm, respect, and decades of influence. Brigadier Jerry lives far from flashy, yet every corner of his life carries the weight of cultural power. Today, we're stepping inside his Kingston world to explore the home, the assets, and the mindset of a man who helped define dancehall without ever chasing fame. But before we walk through his doors, we need to rewind to where his voice first ruled the sound system. And that story begins with his career. Robert Russell, known to the world as Brigadier Jerry, was born on September 28, 1957, in the Papine district of eastern Kingston, Jamaica, a place where music spilled out of yards, street corners, and sound clashes long before it ever reached a studio. In Kingston, sound systems were more than speakers and turntables. They were schools, churches, and battlegrounds. And long before Jerry became a cultural authority behind the mic, he was simply a sharp-witted teenager fascinated by performance. His first dream wasn't music at all, it was comedy. As a young teen, Jerry performed stand-up routines at local gatherings, learning timing, crowd psychology, and the power of voice. Those skills would later become deadly weapons in dancehall. By the early 1970s, Kingston's sound system culture pulled him in completely. Brigadier Jerry found his true calling when he linked up with U-Roy and the legendary King Sturgav Hi-Fi, based in Olympic Gardens. Under U-Roy's mentorship, the man widely credited as the father of toasting, Jerry learned the deeper craft of DJing, breath control, phrasing, crowd reading, and lyrical improvisation. He studied the greats of the era, Prince Jazzbo, Big Youth, Dennis Al Capone, but never became a clone. Instead, he developed a rapid, fluid delivery layered with intelligence, humor, and spiritual awareness. Brigadier Jerry's journey took a decisive turn when he joined the 12 Tribes of Israel and became a central figure within the Jah Love music sound system in 1978. This affiliation reshaped his lyrical identity. At a time when dancehall was drifting toward slackness and shock value, Jerry went the opposite direction. His performances were filled with biblical references, moral instruction, and cultural uplift. He famously incorporated the names of the 12 tribes into his lyrics, turning sound system clashes into sermons without ever losing entertainment value. By 1980, Brigadier Jerry was no longer just respected, he was dominant. He became one of the most in-demand sound system DJs in Jamaica, admired for his discipline, clarity, and refusal to dilute his message. Recording soon followed. In the early 1980s, he cut tracks at Studio One, including Every Man Me Brethren and Dance in Montreal. His true breakthrough arrived in 1982 with Pain and Guana School, which topped Jamaican charts and proved that message-driven lyrics could still rule the dance floor. His 1983 live album Live at the Controls captured what made Brigadier Jerry special: command, spontaneity, and total authority over a crowd. 2 years later came Jamaica, his first studio album. Yet albums were never the core of his legacy. Sound systems were. Jerry toured relentlessly across Jamaica, North America, Europe, and the Caribbean, becoming a pillar of roots and cultural dancehall. Many fans and historians regard him as the greatest disciple of U-Roy, a title often mentioned alongside Ranking Joe, Josie Wales, Charlie Chaplin, and even later icons like Buju Banton. In the late 1990s, when U-Roy revived Sturgav, Brigadier Jerry returned as a lead touring DJ, reaffirming his place in the culture. Today, while he records selectively, his true power still lives on stage, delivering conscious, uncompromising performances rooted in tradition. After decades spent commanding crowds and shaping dancehall's moral spine, the story now slows down, away from the speakers, away from the clash. House in Kingston, Jamaica. The property is part of an intimate, well-planned enclave made up of 10 independent, two-story Mediterranean-style villas. Each home stands alone, with no shared walls, offering privacy that feels intentional rather than accidental. Brigadier Jerry's space reflects that same philosophy: independent, quietly confident. Inside, the three-bedroom, three-bathroom layout follows an open-plan design that prioritizes light, airflow, and function. The kitchen anchors the main living area, fitted with Pouilly cabinetry, high-end Whirlpool appliances, and marble wall cladding that adds polish without tipping into excess. Everything feels modern but restrained, upgraded, not over-designed. Nearly new furnishings throughout mean the house is ready to live in, not staged for attention. The living space flows naturally toward the back of the home, where a private stone patio waits, shaded by a paragon pergola and framed for calm. It's an ideal setup for a quiet barbecue, morning coffee, or simply sitting with nothing but birds and breeze. One of the home's most underrated luxuries is what it removes from daily life. Landscaping, pool upkeep, and exterior maintenance are handled through the property's management, allowing the homeowner to focus on living, not maintaining. Peace, here, is partly architectural and partly administrative. This Kingston home represents something rare in music culture: an artist choosing stillness over spectacle. A place where the mic is finally set down, not out of exhaustion, but satisfaction. But Jamaica wasn't the only place where Brigadier Jerry planted roots. House in Connecticut, United States. By around 2019, multiple sources suggested that Brigadier Jerry also maintained a property in the United States, a home that felt less like a trophy and more like a reset button. The experience begins at the front porch. Warm, understated, and unmistakably American, it feels built for slow mornings and long conversations. Step around back and the tone softens even more. A peaceful backyard opens into a spacious patio, ideal for quiet evenings or casual gatherings, with no sense of performance attached. Inside, the house leans into proportion and light. High ceilings lift the rooms, while large windows pull daylight deep into the interior, creating an open, calm atmosphere throughout. The living room sits at the center of the home, anchored by custom-designed shelving, practical, timeless, and reflective of someone who values substance over excess. The master bedroom is conveniently located on the ground floor, offering privacy and ease, especially for extended stays. Upstairs, 2, possibly 3, generously sized bedrooms provide flexibility. Guest rooms, a home office, a creative studio, or even a small screening room. The layout allows the house to adapt to life, not the other way around. Location matters here too. The home sits in a well-kept, easily accessible neighborhood near West Hartford, just steps from Duffy Elementary School and Sedgwick High School, and only minutes from the town's center. Quiet, practical, and grounded, far from the spotlight, but close to everyday life. To date, there has been no official confirmation from Brigadier General Jerry regarding ownership. It remains possible that the property was rented during his stay in the U.S., rather than purchased outright. Still, the choice of such a home, temporary or not, speaks volumes about priorities. And that brings us to the next question. How did decades on sound systems and stages translate into income, stability, and lasting value? Income and net worth. With an estimated net worth just under $5 million, Brigadier Jerry represents a rare class of reggae veterans whose income grew slowly, steadily, and with dignity. His catalog remains the foundation. Albums such as Jamaica, Jamaica, and On the Road, released through respected roots-focused labels, never chased pop charts, but they never disappeared either. Streaming adds another layer. Platforms like Spotify, Apple Music, and YouTube keep his music circulating globally, especially among reggae purists and sound system culture fans. While payouts for reggae remain relatively low compared to mainstream genres, the cumulative effect of decades of listening still matters. His recordings are also periodically licensed for reggae compilations and cultural documentaries, adding quiet but meaningful royalty streams. Live performance, however, has always been the engine. International reggae festivals, sound system events, and heritage showcases, particularly across Jamaica, Europe, and diaspora hubs, remain reliable income sources. Veteran performers of his stature can command anywhere from $1,000 to over $10,000 per show, depending on the setting. It's not volume that sustains him, but reputation. Collaborations also play a role. Working with producers and icons such as King Jammy has brought both upfront payments and shared royalties, while continued respect from younger artists keeps his name circulating in modern reggae and dancehall conversations. After decades spent building respect rather than chasing wealth, Jerry's real life has always centered on discipline at home. Personal life. He has been married to his wife Geraldine for more than 35 years, a rare milestone in an industry known for instability. Their marriage has remained largely private, grounded in routine, faith, and mutual loyalty rather than public attention. Together, they raised their children quietly, including a son named Jermaine, keeping family life intentionally separate from the stage. Geraldine has occasionally offered rare glimpses into that private world. In 2019, she publicly thanked members of the dancehall community, most notably Lady Anne, for their support during a difficult period for their family. Those moments revealed a tight-knit circle built not on fame, but on long-standing relationships and shared history. That same year, however, Jerry faced the most serious personal setback of his life. In November 2019, he was arrested in Waterbury, Connecticut, following an incident at Bertie's West Indian restaurant. What reportedly began as a misunderstanding over a missing wallet escalated into a moment that shocked both fans and peers. According to court records, Jerry returned to the location with an illegal firearm and discharged a shot into a wall, triggering panic among those present. He was charged with multiple serious offenses, including robbery, reckless endangerment, and firearm violations, and was later released on a $250,000 bond. In the years since, Jerry has returned to the values that defined his life long before the headlines: restraint, reflection, and responsibility. He rarely speaks publicly about the incident, choosing instead to let his actions and his continued commitment to music and family do the talking. If you enjoyed stepping inside this story, his home, his music, and the values behind it, don't forget to like this video, share it with fellow reggae lovers, and subscribe for more deep dives into the lives that shaped music history. Your support keeps these stories alive. Thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and thank you for continuing this journey with us. We'll see you in the next story.